Hello and welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll look at data for corruption. So from where you get data about corruption, one of the data sources about corruption is the index produced, the CPI index. We're going to talk about indices produced by Transparency Organization. It's a global body conducting research about corruption worldwide and publishing data about corruption. We're going to look at the ranking across countries as well. So first of all, what's the aim of the Transparency Organization? So the aim of Transparency Organization is to find a global a global data source for corruption. So they conducting research, conducting different relevant stakeholders, talking about citizens, business people, experts, looking at corruption. You know, corruption is very tricky and very difficult to deduct. So that's why they are measuring corruption based on, let's say, how these stakeholders, they rate corruption in these countries. So we're looking here at, we're going to talk about this today, different types of corruption. We're talking about, first we're looking at the two indices produced by the organization. The first index here, we have the Annual Corruption Perceptions Index, and we have the second one, Global Corruption Barometer. So the first one, Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI, so ranks countries, territories by the perceived levels of public sector corruption according to experts and business people. So remember, we're looking at experts and business people, launched in 1995, and with comparable data back to 2012. CPI has been widely credited with putting the issue of corruption on the international policy agenda. So in this case, we're looking at Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI. We look only, we're getting the data, or let's say through questionnaires, mainly aimed at, or let's say addressed to experts and business people. The second one, Global Corruption Barometer, GCB, we're talking about to supplement the data for, let's say, that they're getting from experts, business people. They want to supplement that by looking at ordinary citizens around the world. So in your country, they may ask you to engage in a survey to rate how corrupted your perception about the public sector. So talking about since introduction 2003, the world's largest public survey on corruption has collected valuable data about the experiences and perceptions of tens of thousands of people. So now I have two of them. Today we'll look at the Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI. Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI. We have two things here. You'll find a list of data. I'll show you how to download the data and look at the list. So you will have countries. We have two things here. We have the score, country, and rank. So the score, we're going to talk about the score, and we have the rank, the country. So the score, the highest, the best. Yeah. So they tell you here about the score. We'll look at here, the CPI uses a scale from 0 to 100. 100 is very clean and 0 is highly corrupt. So in this case, we have CPI ranks 180 countries, territories around the world by the perceived levels of public sector corruption. As I said again and again, so they're using perception. So looking at stakeholders engaged in a country and the public sector mainly, and they say they evaluate how corrupted it is. So 100 is very clean, 0 is very corrupted. So we have here top ranks, we see Denmark, Finland, and you see here the arrow, so is the same place. Denmark is the first place, so we have Finland is getting up. So we'll talk about fluctuations of these based on data received in a country. You will see here we have United Kingdom, we have rank, we have 78 and rank number 11. You're looking at different countries, some of them gain down. So we're talking about changes in an index. We have also, if you go down, you will see how we are getting a lower score, means more corruption. We see here different countries. We see, for example, China, 45. We see Kuwait, 43. We're looking at also looking at India, 40, 85 rank. If you go down, you see also other countries. You see other countries. You see Russia. You see Pakistan. You see Iran. If you go down, you see other country. You see Sudan. You see in the last 3 places, you see Somalia, Syria, and South Sudan. So we're talking about here, talking about war zone and the problem and difficulties. In this case, talking about is difficulties or in operation. So that's talking about corruption. Okay, so you could download data. So what we have here, we can, first of all, we can select years to make a comparison. So you can select years from they give you data 1995 until 2021. So if you go down, you could download, they'll allow you to download CPI 2021 report, CPI 2021 full data set, and CPI 2021 methodology, and also they allow download maps. So you get regional maps, global maps, map and index. So they're providing a lot of data. You can look at the methodology. I've got you here some of the methodology we're looking at. Before we look at methodology, actually, I want to show you something else. We're looking at, first of all, we need to look at the score calculated. So it's all about score. Each country score is combination of at least 3 data sources drawn from 13 different corruption surveys and assessments. These data sources are collected by a variety of reputable institutions, including World Bank and World Economic Forum. Talking about the score, we've been talking about difference between a country score and a country rank. So a country's score is the perceived level of public sector corruption on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 means highly corrupt, and 100 means very clean. A country's rank is its position relative to the other countries in an index. Ranks can change merely if the number of countries included in the index changes. The rank, therefore, not as important as the score. So the main thing about you, if you're using data, time series data, you need to look at take the score only. I would say take the score only. That will give you the main valuable bit of information about corruption in that country, where you can include that in your model. I've got you that in here. So this is what actual sheet looks like. So they show you all the countries, and then you got you here time series data from 2012 to 2021. So you can look at all data, and they give you here, if you look here, source, and this is the score. Yeah, so that you need to focus on these scores for the country that you want to work on. And here they show you changes, 1 year trend, 5 year trend, 10-year trend. Yeah, and they show you here statistically significant changes. So you look at this data, you try to play around to look at I'd say the progress of your country from 2012 until 2021, and see whether corruption is getting less or getting worse. Okay, so before we get into methodology, okay, I want you to get into the list. So what kind of corruption does the CPI measure? So we have bribery, diversion of public funds, officials using the public office for private gain without facing consequences, ability of governments to contain corruption in the public sector, excessive red tape in the public sector, which may increase opportunities for corruption, neopolistic appointments in the civil service, laws ensuring that public officials must disclose their finances and potential conflicts of interest, legal protection, we're looking at legal protection for people who report cases of bribery and corruption, state capture by narrow vested interests, access to information on public affairs, government activities, talking about how you will be allowed, or let's say how what the freedom of disclosing information about public sector information, talking about transactions, engagement, money, budget, all these kind of information. CPI does not cover citizens' direct perceptions or experience of corruption, tax fraud, illicit financial flows, enablers of corruption, talking about lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, talking about money laundering, private sector corruption, informal economies and markets. So again, this is based on perceptions of, we said 3 categories, talking about expert, business people, and local citizens. For CPI, we said only experts and business people, so talking about perception. If you kind of corruption or kind of issues you are engaging, or you need to you want to let's say engage in, involves one of these issues, so CPI index is not the best source of data to measure corruption. Maybe you need to look at these issues separately. Yeah, there will be some separate source of information, for example, for money laundering. Okay, so CPI, they provide you about the overall performance of public sector and the transparency in relation to these issues mentioned here. Okay, now in terms of corruption perception index, CPI, talking about notes of methodology, talking about select data sources. So they explain here how, in a short form, how they collect data, in relation to data sources, and also they're providing me here with the standardized data sources. They explaining here the scoring also how they calculate the average and reporting the measure of CPI. So it's worth look at the short methodology note. Also, if you want to look on more details about a full source description, they're publishing this data in different languages. So in this here, you'll see different public bodies assessment that they will look at and which questions they will focus on when they build the CPI index. Yeah. Okay, in relation to what we covered so far, now you'll have more information about Transparency International. You'll have now 2 indices to measure corruption, and we mentioned these 2 indices here. It said Corruption Perceptions Index CPI and Global Corruption Barometer GCB. So in this tutorial, we focused on Corruption Perceptions Index. I showed you how to get data, what kind of data you need to look at, and I told you there are 2 types of information in the CPI, the scoring and the rank, and in your time series focus, you need to focus on the score. You need to also be aware of what kind of different types of corruption and which one is more important to you. So you can get all the data for free, all the information across any country, and you can check the progress of any country in terms of corruption, whether the situation is improving, the country is moving up, means the score is going higher, close to 100, or the score is going low. So in this case, talking about totally corrupt. Yeah. So I hope this is beneficial, giving you some understanding and more idea about how to measure corruption, from where you get data about corruption, how to look at the ranking of countries worldwide in corruption. And also let me know if your country is not included in this list in the CPI. This means that there is a difficulty getting data about your country or territory. So countries here, let me know about the corruption in your country and whether it's consistent with this CPI index. Thank you for listening. Please share and subscribe. Thank you.